The Premier of British Columbia said yesterday it is vital that any trade agreement with the United States should include a deal on softwood lumber.
Yeah, we don't need their lumber. We have more lumber than they do. We don't need Canada's lumber.
We are looking for the best deal for Canada. We are only going to accept the best deal for Canada.
At sunrise on July 12th, American builders woke up to a new reality. Washington had slapped a 35% tariff on every Canadian shipment of softwood lumber, and within hours, the flow of timber that frames nearly 1 in 3 U.S. homes began to dry up.
With President Trump taking direct aim at our economy, his goal is to take every single business out of our country, out of our province, and bring it down to the U.S.
In Ontario, mills slowed, valves tightened, and the lifeline that fueled construction across the border faltered. Reports warn the shortage alone could add $10,000 to the cost of a single-family house, with some estimates soaring to $14,000 by 2027. For builders, the market feels like the tightest squeeze since World War II. Now the question hangs in the air. How high will the costs climb, and how far will this trade war go before the first walls stop rising? Let's get into it. Last year, Washington sent shockwaves through the housing industry by nearly doubling its duty on Canadian softwood lumber to 14.54%. The move was swift and punishing, aimed directly at one of America's most reliable suppliers. Almost overnight, the trade artery that delivers nearly 30% of the studs and joists holding up new homes in the United States felt the strain. Industry analysts warned that the lumber missing from this pipeline could have framed every single house America started the previous year. Builders began feeling the pressure immediately as costs rippled through construction sites. The National Association of Home Builders now warns that the tariff squeeze could add between $7,500 and $10,000 to the cost of building a median single-family home. Mortgage rates already hover near 7%, and the added cost threatens to push many buyers out of reach. But this initial sticker shock was only the first sign that the trade fight was shifting into a higher gear. On July 16, 2025, Reuters reported that Canada was preparing to strike back. Officials floated the idea of an export quota, signaling that lumber supply could be deliberately tightened to secure domestic jobs and cut off U.S. buyers. Ontario's mills, already running at over 80% capacity to serve the country's booming green construction sector, would prioritize keeping their production at home. If Ottawa followed through, U.S. importers stood to lose enough lumber each month to equal 16 Empire State Buildings, stacked plank for plank. Replacement options were thin. Germany and Sweden together shipped only 3.5 million cubic meters to America in 2023. A fraction of what Canada supplies. Long transit times and higher shipping costs made these imports an unreliable safety net. U.S. sawmills could try to ramp up, but labor shortages, environmental regulations, and the lingering effects of recent wildfires slowed any hope of immediate relief. It could take years, not months, to meaningfully close the gap. By March, lumber futures had already breached $650 per thousand board feet, and analysts warned that a formal quota from Ottawa could push prices towards $765. Economists surveyed by Reuters cautioned that single-family housing starts, already hovering near an 11-month low, could drop further if supplies tightened. Every missing shipment threatened to transform a trade skirmish into a structural crisis for the American housing market. Washington's broader strategy had already escalated. On March 4, 2025, the White House floated a blanket 25% duty on all Canadian imports, lumber included. Market analysts warned that even a temporary tariff at that level would ripple across the entire forest products industry on both sides of the border. Canada still sends roughly 12 billion board feet of softwood into the U.S. every year, about 28 million cubic meters, nearly a third of the lumber used to frame American homes. Fast Market's capacity audit shows U.S. sawmills remain at least 3 billion board feet short of filling that void. Ottawa saw its leverage clearly. In July 2025, British Columbia's Premier David Eby signaled for the first time that the province was prepared to discuss formal quotas. The moment a cap is set, every 2x4 shipped south effectively becomes a ration card for U.S. builders. Canada, meanwhile, has new options for its lumber. Once the comprehensive and progressive agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership is fully phased in, Canadian forest products can enter markets like Japan, Singapore, and Australia tariff-free. While the United States pays higher prices under its own trade wall, Asia can buy the same wood at market rates. Officials in Ottawa are already pivoting production to higher-margin goods like engineered panels, prefabricated walls, and finished cabinetry. These products qualify for duty-free treatment under both the Pacific Trade Pact and Canada's agreements with Europe, turning raw logs into finished exports that keep more profit at home. If quotas fall before autumn, analysts warn that lumber prices could skyrocket, erasing the short period of relief and piling new costs onto every starter home in the country. For America, the timing could not be worse. Washington's tariff campaign did not stop at lumber. Steel mills, soy fields, and auto plants soon found themselves in the crossfire. A 35% duty on hot-rolled steel pushed up costs for everything from apartment girders to the rebar buried under newly funded highways. Analysts at S&P Global Commodity Insights estimated that building a mid-size pickup truck suddenly cost automakers $1,200 more. Grocery prices were climbing too, as new tariffs hit fertilizer, tractor parts, and grain storage equipment, while beef imports continued to suffer under China's retaliatory blockade. Yale's budget lab warned that the ripple effects could be severe. Higher input costs mean lower competitiveness and a gradual erosion of domestic investment. They projected that U.S. households would see prices rise an additional 2.1%, draining an average of $2,800 from family budgets. This was the double squeeze: higher material costs for builders and rising grocery bills for families. The trade war was no longer an abstract policy fight. It was reshaping the cost of daily life. Investors took notice. Since the tariff list expanded, the Dow Jones Home Construction Index slipped 8%, while corn futures in Chicago touched a 14-month high. Each empty space on store shelves and every delayed construction project hinted at an economy straining under the weight of its own trade policies. Meanwhile, border towns felt the immediate chill. Customs records revealed that cross-border traffic plummeted in the spring. Niagara's Rainbow Bridge saw cars vanish from its lanes, and the Peace Bridge recorded tens of thousands fewer crossings. By mid-February, Erie County collected 7% less in sales tax revenue, leaving a $4.9 million shortfall. Local officials pointed directly to missing Canadian shoppers. Outlet malls reported double-digit drops in foot traffic, and roadside diners shortened their hours because the evening rush never arrived. The psychological effects spread as well. A Dunnhumby survey released in late May 2025 found that 71% of Canadian consumers intended to buy fewer U.S. grocery products. This type of boycott is harder to reverse than tariffs because it is driven by emotion. Anger at Washington's policies, pride in supporting domestic producers. So, will Washington hold firm to bring production home, or make peace before the building season grinds to dust? Stay tuned, subscribe for more, and see you in the next one.